Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mauro, and today I'd like to present two fresh arrivals that have just arrived here in Trieste from Honduras. These two coffees are coffees that belong to our traceability project. As we already explained before, the traceability project gives you, the client, the possibility of knowing everything there is to know about how the coffee is grown, who it is grown by, and where it comes from, which farm it comes from. These two coffees that have just arrived, I'll describe them together to make it simple, come from the Ocotepeque area, and they're called, the one is called the Honduras SHG Ocotepeque Aposento Alto, and the other one is the Honduras SHG Ocotepeque Las Mataras. These are two fincas which we have discovered and which produce a very nice coffee. Just to give you a couple of facts and figures, the finca Aposento Alto has an altitude of about 1,650 meters, whilst the Las Mataras is at about 1,500 meters. So more or less we are at the same levels. Both coffees are shade grown. The Aposento Alto is shade grown with guamo and other trees, whilst the Las Mataras is shade grown with pine trees and with pepeto trees. Of course, being typical Central American coffees, they're both fully washed coffees, and the varietals used for these coffees is the Caturra variety. Okay, so going on to the physical appearance of these two coffees. The first green coffee that we can see is the Honduras Traceability Project Ocotepeque Finca Aposento Alto, and over here you can see that the green is very homogeneous, well selected. Here we found a screen size of 37% screen 17 and 62% above screen 18, with 28% over screen 19. So it is definitely a good screen coffee. Moving over to the right, we can also see the roasted coffee. Now the coffee of this Aposento Alto is definitely a very even roast. Very even roast. The white cut in between the beans is very visible. Very well processed, very well washed coffee. As a comparison now, we can move over to the green coffee of our Honduras SHG Traceability Project Ocotepeque Finca Las Mataras. The Finca Las Mataras is slightly bigger, very, very slightly. I mean, on the screen we found 33% screen 17 and 65% screen 18. With 32% over 19. So it's actually a very good screen for a Caturra coffee. Again, very well selected, maybe just a touch greener than the other. The roasted coffee presents itself very well as well. Very nice and homogeneous, nice bold beans, nice visible cut between the beans as well. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I've just been presented the two cups of our Honduran traceable coffees. On my left, I have the coffee from the Finca Las Mataras, and on my right over here, I have the coffee from La Finca Aposento Alto. Now, looking at the crema, I would say that the crema is more or less identical. We have a nice golden brown in both cups. Checking the complexity and the thickness of the crema, I'd say that there are very, very few differences between the two. Maybe a slightly lighter crema on the one, but more or less there aren't any major differences between the two. Let us go and try or smell the fragrances that are emanating from these cups. Okay, so what I can perceive here is a more fruit-like sweet type of fragrance coming out of the Las Mataras. whilst on the Aposento Alto, I would say you have a more spicy, a more, how can I say, maybe a little bit more acidic, maybe a little bit more citrusy type of fragrance coming up. But let's prepare our cups as usual with our sugar. As before, and as we always do, we sugar the one cup and leave the other cup instead unsugared. This is, as we said before, to be able to lower the bitterness on the sugar cup so that you're able to taste all the more fleeting nuances and fleeting fragrances and aromas that there may be in these cups here. I'll just stir them very, very quickly just to have the cups ready here. Obviously in these tastings we use exactly the same amount of sugar for each cup we taste. So it is a sachet. For practical reasons we use a sachet which has exactly 5 grams of sugar in it. Let us go on to our Las Mataras coffee to see what it is like, starting with the unsugared cup. Already from an initial judgment on the unsugared cups, you can see they're very similar cups, but you can see a slight difference in the level of acidity between the two. But anyway, they're both sweet coffees. They're both, let's say, free of bitterness or unpleasant bitterness. Let's go on to the sugared cup of the Las Mataras now. I'd say that the body in the Las Mataras is definitely a good body. It is a good body, it presents itself well. The acidity is a medium acidity, and I would say that it is an acidity which reminds one maybe of a tropical fruit or something exotic, something like a maracuja fruit. Then you also have in this cup here in particular, you have a cocoa-y and a almond type of taste coming out as well. Moving on to the Aposento Alto, let us see what the sugared cup tells us. Now on the Aposento Alto, the body is more or less the same. What I can say about the Aposento Alto is that the acidity is just a little bit higher, giving it a more citrusy, maybe a mandarin, a sweet citrus fruit like a mandarin taste, and just a little bit of spiciness as well. In fact, in the aftertaste I'd say that you have some spiciness coming out, some maybe nuts coming out, whilst on the other cup of course you have the almonds coming out and some chocolate coming out. Generally speaking, I'd say that they are quite similar as far as cup characteristics are concerned. The Las Mataras is maybe just a little bit sweeter, maybe more of that ripe fruit taste. The Aposento Alto instead is slightly more acidic and therefore a little bit more citrusy in taste. Both very good coffees though.